to do my paired review to go with the book 1984 by George Orwell. This week, instead of a movie, I've chosen a different form of media, and what I'm doing today is reviewing Orwell. It is a kind of strategy game, I guess you would say. You are playing from the point of view of Big Brother. You are working for the government. You are serving the nation, as you can see on the screen here. I do have one active profile on here. It's from my first playthrough of the game. I will be creating a new profile today to walk you through the first episode, just because it does not let you backtrack. What I mean specifically here, when I say you are Big Brother, you are the one who is monitoring everything. You're monitoring the media, you're monitoring social media, calls, computers. You are the machine that has access to everything to spy, for lack of a better term, on the population. I found it really interesting to play from this perspective, just because it was so different from the book 1984. There they give you a really good idea of what it's like to be a civilian, and here, when you're playing, you get to be the like I said, the machine working for the government that is interpreting data and whether or not it is adequate and useful. As you can see here, I'm just running through the opening cutscene. I won't be going through all of it because it's very lengthy, and I'd like to get right into the review of the game, which I will do in just a second here. Okay, so we're going to start with episode 1, The Clock Strikes 13. The big thing here is, like I said, I just skipped through the rest of the cutscene. Off screen there was an explosion, and as you can see, Symes, who is kind of our guide through Orwell and through most of the levels we play, he is just going to keep you updated on what your mission is for the day, and he will talk to you as information is entered. Here he's just kind of explaining what Orwell is, that it's a test phase, and that you are one of the few who has been granted access to help with the government machine moving forward. The Big Brother style play in this game is really interesting, especially with how they have everything set up. They have a pretty easy to use interface. The first thing that comes up here is that Symes wants you to become updated on what the current situation is, and the easiest way for us to do that is to go into the Reader tab, and what that does here is pull up the National Beholder, and the National Beholder is simply the national paper, and getting yourself up to date is really just going to be looking at the current events and looking at the articles that are there. As you can see, as I scroll down, when I get to the current events with the National Beholder, what it does is just give me kind of 3 current or recently released articles from the newspaper, two of which it looks like we'll be able to use, specifically the one that talking about the bomb obliterating the Freedom Memorial that kills 3 people, because that is the explosion that happened off screen during the opening cutscene. Alright, and so that's just kind of the basic levels of how the game is played. You collect data chunks that are highlighted and easy to find, although whether or not the information is of any use is up to you to determine. As you get more data chunks and as you fill everything out, your relationship screen, where your unknown person started, where your Cassandra Watergate profile will now be, will slowly grow and expand into a web of people. And within that, you'll be able to fill in more profiles, get more information, and move forward. And that's essentially all the game is collecting this information to find the terrorists, to prevent more damage. Within the information you collect, there will be some things that you can do, such as one where if the information isn't particularly relevant, like if it's something odd on a social media profile, you can disable that information so that and anything related to it will not be used, which is really helpful because you get things like oh, I'm one with the internet, or I'm on the other side of the rainbow, just very odd things that will actually not impact whether or not they are part of terrorist activities. And the other thing you can get with this is data chunks with conflicting information. Here, that's where context is really important, because you'll get things where it says so-and-so is friends or so-and-so is not friends, and the way to do that is to really get an idea of the timeline of when these things were said, and to always go with the most updated information. This is important just because sometimes you aren't able to update that information as easily as other information gets updated. And again, just with the profiles, you'll always have profile images for each person as you're able to acquire information about them. Some will never get filled out because they are very, they're really among the outer limits of who is involved. And it's very interesting that as people become more interconnected, the information can sometimes update more than one profile, which makes transferring information into Orwell a lot easier, but it also means some of the information that gets transferred in has to be interpreted a lot more carefully. One thing I really like, is how the game opens up as you go. In the first episode here, we're in the reader. For most of it, we do include part of the listener. The listener is basically your database of the people you're monitoring in terms of their chats, phone calls, and emails. So this is interpersonal communication for everybody. It's really interesting to go through. It is a little bit slower than just going through the reader, but you get a lot of good information, just in terms of where everybody is, what they're thinking, and what they're doing, which really allows you to go through the other sources of information, so through their social media, a lot more easily. The one thing that I really like is the Insider. This is something that you get much later in the game, and I really enjoyed using it. And what it is it just gives you access to remotely log into other people's computers, and I know I said I enjoy it, but only because it fits so well in this game, and using it is as easy as using everything else. The point-and-click user interface is really easy to go with, and if you ever have any concerns, you usually are able to go to the top left corner, and the Orwell symbol there should open up another screen. It'll give you an idea of what needs to be done for the day, and it'll just kind of update you a little bit on current events as well. And this is also where you have the opportunity to log out and save your progress as you go. You can tell it's very slow. Like I said, I do feel like it is a strategy game. It's definitely a thinking man's game. If you're looking for a lot of action, this is not typically a game you would enjoy. This slope move through Orwell with Symes as your guide, who is the gentleman who talks to you as information is uploaded. You can really get the idea that this is good political manipulation of the population, and it really shows you how the government controls kind of what information gets out and how they deal with people who are rising out from under their boot heel. I really enjoyed this game, and like I've said a few times now, I found the user interface really easy to use and really, really easy to get used to. It wasn't particularly difficult. There are a few times where even if I felt like I was at a dead end, I knew what it was that I had to go back, I had to read the information, I had to make some choices, right or wrong, and let them play out. I know I actually went through and deleted my very first profile that I did because I didn't like how I finished this first chapter, and I started again and went from there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that, but I was just very disappointed in myself. And this is a game that I would really recommend. I wouldn't really consider an adaptation of Orwell the same way I consider the movies to be adaptations of the books. But this game specifically has a lot of really good call-outs to characters in the book and to situations in the book. There is a person with the username Winston that pops up at one point, which I found really which I really enjoyed the call out to the main character in the book. You have Symes here. He's someone who is with Orwell, and he is working well with words, and that really connects well with the character of the same name in the book, who just had a lot to do with words and was very intelligent. And just little things like that, and the fact that the government is called the party, and even though the governments aren't the same, you get a lot of the push and pull between governments show up in the game that was very similar to how the push and pull occurred to in the book. And I really enjoyed this interpretation of what Big Brother would be if they had the technology to do it. With that being said, I really enjoyed the game. I would recommend it to anybody who really enjoys that kind of thinking or strategy game. It is a slow play, but it is a short game. I think it takes about 6 hours or so to read through. I could probably do it a little quicker, a little slower, depending on how quickly you read and how much you skim as you go. But this game is easily a 4 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed myself, and I would definitely play a game like this again, which is great because there's a sequel out, and I'm really looking forward to when it goes on sale and I can get it. For those of you interested in where I got this game, I believe I got it through Humblebundle.com, and I play it through the Steam platform on my PC. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!